I thought, okay, now I'm the boss. I hired a team and, I can kick my feet up. Everybody else, do the work. I can sort of direct and, things will happen. And what I didn't appreciate at the time was, the leaders I followed and, who's going to follow me is you have to be the hardest worker in the room and you have to really lead by example, the old kind of servant leadership, right? Like, so 8 a.m. we'd kick off the company, I'd have to be there at 7:15 a.m. I'd have to be the first one in, last one out. And, you really have to lead by example. And that's something that, is really, I think once I got that was one of the last pieces. I think that I was naive to respect, thinking that you can just kind of tell people and things happen. You have to do it, show them, help them, right? Be somebody who is helpful. Always be thinking about your employees first and yourself last. I mean, that's what you're signing up for, right? So it's knowing that that's the key to success and that's what you signed up for, but you just may not know it. I didn't know in the beginning.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Today's a very special episode for you. Over 800 episodes right now for this podcast. We originally started as Leaders in the Trenches. We interviewed hundreds of founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs about their journey of entrepreneurship. What could we learn from those people? Well, really amazing stuff that we started out this podcast with. Now, I changed the name a couple of years ago because I focused on a new set of founders and entrepreneurs, the CEOs of the fastest growing companies out there. Now, 800 episodes is hundreds and hundreds of interviews with amazing, inspiring leaders that I get to share with you. I get to tune into what's going on in their world, what makes them who they are, how they think, the principles that drive them, and all the things in between. When you think about this special episode, I want you to think about this. We're going to have one entrepreneur on this that I'm really inspired by because he is the leader of the fastest growing company in America by the Inc. 5000 list. So this is the 2021 Inc. 5000 list, fastest growth company, Human Bees. They're a human capital company that believes in customizing the offer and solution for their customers. And this is the reason why they've grown so fast. But if you really dig into it, it's not about their offer to the world, but it's about their leadership and the culture behind that. Today, we talk with their founder, CEO, Geetesh Goyal. And Geetesh really goes in and unpacks what does it take to create the fastest growth company. And he talks about being adaptable. He talks about being intentional. He talks about the things that are necessary for us to be successful in growing a business. Take really good notes today. And I want to make sure that you understand something before we dive into this episode. And it's this. In order to grow a company fast, you have to grow faster than your company. You have to evolve faster in a faster pace than those around you. Because if you're the leader of them, you want to make sure you lead by example. You have to continue your own personal development journey. You have to continue to develop your skills, develop your mindset, develop everything it takes to be the leader that your company deserves. And you have to make sure that you are sharp. You are playing the high performance game that is necessary, because if you don't, you'll feel the overwhelm. You'll feel the things that keep you from being the leader. You'll avoid difficult conversations. And all of this will create more friction inside your business. And that just doesn't allow for growth. In fact, it hinders it. I mentioned all this to you because if you're curious about what does it take to grow to that next level, make sure you check out some of the free content on genehammett.com. That's me. And I'd love to help you as a leader, help you identify your blind spot. I can do this in less than 5 minutes, and then we can create a plan to figure out what's really going to take for you to move forward in your business. All of this is absolutely free. I do this because if you're listening to this episode because you want to be a better leader, you want to be more effective, you want to execute better, you want to be more strategic, more visionary, you want to be more intentional, whatever it is, I can help you get there because I've done this hundreds of times in the last few years. I've been an executive coach for the last 10, and I'd love to help you figure out what's next in your business. I promise not to sell you. But if you go to genehammett.com and schedule your call, you'll get insight and clarity about what does it take for you to be the leader that your team deserves. Just go do it now. genehammett.com, schedule your call. Now here's the interview with Geetesh. Hi, Geetesh.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am excited to have you on the show. Your company, Human Bees, was astronomical over the last few years, #1 on the Inc. list.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
We're going to talk a little bit about that ride. Tell us a little bit about what the company does and who you are. So Human Bees, what is it?
Yeah, so Human Bees. So just kind of as the name says, so we're in the human capital space. And the way that I thought of the name was, again, wordplay on human beings, human bees. The way I like to say it is human bees, we're sort of like human beings. We just work a lot harder. And so we do basically, to kind of boil it down, it's really staffing. So the human capital space, I'd say what makes us different is we tailor make custom solutions for clients as opposed to other staffing firms.
Well, love the name, and you guys, your growth rate, I don't have it in front of me, but do you remember what that was over a 3-year period?
Yeah, it was right under 50,000%.
50,000%. So when you set out on this journey of creating a company, go back to the days of when it started. What year was that?
We started Human Bees. This was approximately 4 years ago. So yeah, so we started the company, and it was tough times because you're bootstrapping, you're trying to get going, and you have no revenue. And I'd started companies prior, so that was kind of part of the journey as well. I'd started a company, Neozine, which was in the consulting space, again, staffing, consulting, biotech, and pharmaceutical, and was on that journey for about 3-4 years. And I think that's where I took a lot of licks, and then kind of pivoted to Human Bees because it was the same type of deal. I just opened it to a much broader market as opposed to just pharmaceutical and biotech. I decided to open up Human Bees because the sales pipeline is what was lacking with Neozine. So I decided to open a much wider pipeline by taking all clientele.
Well, that's usually not the case, but most companies I see niche down and then grow. But you basically had another business that was niche down, and you decided to reposition that. Did you sell that business? What happened to it?
No, Neozine. So we essentially pivoted. So we had a lot of stuff that was going in Neozine. We had probably a team of about 10 people. So we took about those, 6 to, probably we had thinned down to 6 or 8 because we'd hit some tough times where our revenue was down. And, I think that's a great point. I think it's important to understand in your business as a younger entrepreneur and evolving and growing, where is the bottleneck in your funnel for success, right? And our bottleneck, for me, delivery, I in terms of consulting and staffing, I'd done that at a very high level my entire career, better than anybody that I'd ever seen. So I knew I could deliver on anything. I'd been a VP for IBM and on talent acquisition. I'd worked for solar companies. So it didn't matter to me necessarily the niche. I'm a dentist by education. And so, life sciences comes naturally to me. So that's sort of why we went towards the biotech space. But in our funnel, the problem was that we didn't have enough business. So like you said, it's rare, but so to kind of open up that bottleneck was we just had to get a lot more clients in any space. And to rip it open, Neozine was branded just for consulting and in that space specifically. So we had to kind of rebrand, have a new company, new name. And that's where Human Bees was born. And Neozine is technically still active today, but doesn't get a tremendous amount of attention for the obvious reasons.
So that's a little bit of the history. When you were notified that you were actually #1, do you remember that moment when you found out that you were the fastest growth privately held company in North America?
Yes. I think I was still pinching myself. And I think the journey of really, I would say the past, 7 years, 7-8 years, because I'll incorporate Neozine into this journey because that's really where the journey started about 8 years ago. Because Neozine, we got it up to doing in the millions of billings, and we've done millions of sales. So that really was the true zero story was Neozine, and the last 8 years really just kind of all flashed before my eyes.
Well, I appreciate you being here today to let us look behind the scenes of what does it take to lead a company, the planning and the sacrifice. So where do you want to start? What do you think would be the most helpful for our audience today?
Yeah, I think a great one, one that I always like Mike Tyson's old adage, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And so I like to really share with, particularly with your audience who are growing fast companies, entrepreneurs, on really a lot of the planning and sacrifice that goes in, because it's funny in some ways. Obviously now it's easy for me to say it's great, but in some ways being an entrepreneur is over glorified. I think in today's day and age, I think there's, you have shows like the Shark Tank and all, it's all around you. It's almost entrepreneurs have attained a celebrity status now, which 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. You didn't have the climate's changed, completely. And everybody is chasing that when, I think you should really know what you're signing up for before you may not want to get on that roller coaster if you're afraid of heights.
Absolutely. I mean, I started my business in 2001. I shared with you some of that journey before we cut on the recorder. And I wasn't prepared for what I didn't know. I was a high performer inside of every business I'd ever been in, but
right.
Being the leader of a team and the buck stops with you and all of that stuff was absolutely a big shift for me that I had to understand. And when you think about becoming the leader that you are today, what are some of the inflection points that you went through in your journey?
Yeah, right. So, I would say starting out, just like you said, I think that the biggest one getting going that, it's there, but you can't appreciate it until, you're actually sitting in it. Probably the same for yourself. It was, I know I wasn't going to make a paycheck in the beginning, right? You at some point you got to quit your job and you have to step out, right? It's that really diving into the pool. I think we've all started with trying to do it kind of halfway. You actually start the formal business name while you're in a job. You're trying to kind of transition out. The full transition out where you dive off the ledge, no more job, no more paycheck. I think that is the point, so to speak, the point of no return. And I had accumulated enough savings. I made sure that I think over the 12, 15 years of my career prior, I probably had couple $1,000,000 that I had saved in assets and in wealth, but I just, you can't appreciate how fast it can go when you're not getting a paycheck. Not only are you not getting a paycheck, you are putting money in. So you are paying millions of dollars effectively to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. And I think that really needs to be digested and really thoroughly planned out. Starting out, I think I share a story oftentimes. I just got married, and I don't think my new bride's dream was to live on my friend's couch, but that's exactly what we did, because I didn't have to pay rent or a mortgage. The expenses were very nominal, and even though I had millions over $1 million in the bank, I mean, I knew I needed to do that because that's the sacrifice that was required. And she was supportive. She understood what my dream was. But I mean, it took that level of sacrifice where I couldn't be tempted, even though I had access to seven figures. I couldn't allow myself to be tempted by that, and really had to live on my friend's couch, in mid-30s, newly married.
Now, Geetesh just talked about diving into the pool. We all know that we have to jump in at some point in order to create the kind of company that we want to. It can't be a sideline or side hustle. It can't be something we do after our 9 to 5. It has to be something that you're willing to commit to. Now, most of the people listening to the show have already committed in a big way, but I remember my journey to being an entrepreneur. I was laid off right after 9/11, and I had a little bit of money to use, and I had an idea, and I was able to put that together pretty quickly, but there was no looking back. I was fully committed. And after that first year, as tough as it was, and my fiance at the time said, "Do you know what you're doing?" Because I was not making much money. I wasn't paying myself that much money. but I knew that I would make it. You probably know that you were going to make it too. But we have to continue to push beyond that. I ended up writing a book called The Trap of Success. I'm not here to sell you my book, but I understand what it's like to get comfortable. And if you have already dived into your business, but you've gotten to the place where it's a little bit comfortable, I want to urge you to think about what's next for you. What is the next element that allows you to be the best leader you can be? Make sure you understand what that is and keep coming back to Growth Think Tank to learn from our leaders and our stories. Now back to the interview. When you think about your leadership and culture right now of your company, what are the most critical defining elements of that make this company grow so fast?
I would say really I think being able to, adapt very quickly, and to be able to, again, going back to how we changed from Neozine to human bees, to be able to not lose a lot of time, because time is money, because you're supporting yourself while you're trying to grow a new baby. So you can't lose a lot of time. So I think when you see something, you have to get to it very quickly, pivot and execute.
Other than adaptation, what else are the critical elements of your company?
I would say that it was, really, again, making sure that you're thinking everything through at least 5-6 steps forward, making sure that you're really thinking through exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you do that, you can start to protect yourself from holes. I mean, you'll still fall into some, but because it's just part of the game, right? But I think being able to really plan out 5-6 steps. Why are you doing something and what's going to happen next? And at every step, having your pivot points, really mapping out, and it's continually every minute doing that exercise. It's not like you do it once a month. I mean, you're literally doing it every hour.
I talk with a lot of my clients about this concept of moving from being a reactive leader to being an intentional leader. And this word intentional is exciting and everyone wants to be an intentional leader, but it sounds like that's what you were describing, being 7 steps ahead. Do you think about being an intentional leader?
Yeah, I think that's a great sort of way to put it. I think that is very key, because I think when you're an entrepreneur, right, being reactive is going to just be part of the game, because you're just going to be hit by all sides. So a degree of that is always going to be there. But if you are only reactive and you are not an intentional leader, whatsoever, then I think you're really going to be, it's going to be tough, because you are going to be sort of down that tidal wave. It's going to take you in that whirlpool, and you won't know what direction you're at. If you can think 7 steps out, then you're, like you said, being an intentional leader. I think it'll tremendously help you, because you're still going to get, hit, but at least this way you had some sort of vision and high level game plan. I think it's really, I always put it this way. You have to separate the two, because you're both the strategic visionary and you're the biggest worker bee as well. So you have to dive in and, kind of get in the weeds, dive in, do all the functional work, jump back out at a 10,000 foot view and look at it again. What did I do? Where am I going? How am I doing it? Is this okay? Then dive back into the weeds, and then you get back down, but then you got to jump back out at that strategic vision level. And you have to keep doing that, on a daily basis. And, I think where I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs fail is they get stuck in one of those seats. They can't toggle very well back and forth between the two. And you need to be able to toggle every single day between those two very different seats.
Now, Geetesh said, if you're only reactive, it's really tough. Now, I work with a lot of leaders that have a very good reactive sense inside their business, but that only takes them so far. One of the biggest things that I do is help them figure out how to go from being reactive to being intentional or being proactive. I don't care what words you use there, but you want to make sure that you can shift that energy inside your business, because that is critical for you to not feel overwhelmed, not to feel like a firefighter, but to truly feel like the CEO. My job is to help you figure out what it takes to move to that next level. I can only do so much through a podcast. So if I can serve you in any way, make sure you reach out to me at genehammett.com and schedule your call. I'd love to get to know you and figure out what your next step as a leader is. Now back to the interview. I want to talk just a little bit for a moment about your specific leadership approach. Geetesh, you have successful companies, you have a team around you. What are the principles of leadership that drive you?
Yeah, right. I think that really it's I think one thing that was hard for me to learn at the beginning when I first started Neozine, I thought, okay, now I'm the boss. I hired a team and, I can kick my feet up. Everybody else, do the work. I can sort of direct and, things will happen. And what I didn't appreciate at the time was, the leaders I followed and, who's going to follow me is you have to be the hardest worker in the room and you have to really lead by example, the old kind of servant leadership, right? Like, so 8 a.m. we'd kick off the company, I'd have to be there at 7:15 a.m. I'd have to be the first one in, last one out. And, you really have to lead by example. And that's something that, is really, I think once I got that, that was one of the last pieces. I think that I was naive to a respect, thinking that you can just kind of tell people and things happen. You have to do it, show them, help them, right? Be somebody who is helpful. Always be thinking about your employees first and yourself last. I mean, that's what you're signing up for, right? So it's knowing that that's the key to success and that's what you signed up for. But you just may not know it. I didn't know in the beginning.
I've got a question that I ask quite a bit of people just like you, and you just said something about employees. I wanted to make sure that I don't miss this, but fast growth companies and the leaders like you can focus on many different things. But if I ask you what I call the impossible question, I want you to just think about it and give me the best answer. What's more important to leaders like yourself, your employees or your customers?
Great question. Honestly, if I am being just truly honest, I mean, it's very close, but I would say definitely my employees. I mean, I think it all starts there. I mean, they're literally, I mean, going on a journey like this, I mean, people that I work with and that, work for me and with me, I mean, they've literally truly become family. Like, it's a cliche that's thrown around, but I mean, in our company, I mean, it's literally truly become the case. There's our crew that, was here in the beginning and started things. I don't see them differently than, blood family. And so, and then obviously without our clients, particularly the ones that supported us in the beginning, we wouldn't be here without them and their belief in us. But I would say it definitely starts within our own house. And the people that, work with me. I almost like to say like my partners.
So I've asked this question to many leaders just like yourself, and over 93% of the time say it's employees. Fast growth companies know that they don't scale without the right people and those people taking care of the customers. And there's many reasons underneath that. But you're in good company with these other fast companies. I didn't even know what you would say. I didn't set this up. You could probably agree with that.
That's right. Yeah.
But it does, leadership has to focus on employees in this day and age to create the kind of place where people are willing to put customers first. So I appreciate you being here with me. One last question for you. We've talked about a lot of things as it relates to growing your company fast. Is there anything that we left out that you feel like we need to bring up at this moment?
Yeah, I think it's, in closing, I mean, I would really say that you're gonna, the way I like to put it is when you're in corporate and you're getting a paycheck, that's, you're in a boxing ring with headgear, gloves, in a ring, there's a mat that has give on it. You're gonna go be an entrepreneur. You're getting in a bare knuckle fist fight, and your fists are dipped in glass, and it's on concrete, and there's a ring of fire around you. And so, like, just know you're signing up for that. And the people that get in the trenches with you, you're going, because no one can do it alone. You're going on this epic ride, and just believe in yourself and believe in the people around you. You don't. I mean, honestly, if you don't, 100% unequivocally, then don't do it because you've already failed. If you have to kind of either go all in and do it, or I would recommend, making sure you plan and wait till that time's right. And, but if it's for you, it's amazing. I always give the analogy, and I always share the story. It's funny. I was a finalist for E&Y's Entrepreneur of the Year, and I think that was down to the final five. And they asked me this question, why me? And I think the answer I gave, I don't think they liked it. I think that's probably why I didn't win. But I said, look, you can. I saw it as either I can if I take a lot of funding, and if I and I dilute myself down. I know a lot of people who took the quote unquote easier way out, and they took a ton of funding. I'd have to grow. If I own 2% of my own company, I'd have to grow the company to $1 billion to gain 20 million of wealth, right? Or I could own 100% of a company where I built it to a $20 million company, right? And so I kind of look at it, there is a bona fide scoreboard. So don't get enamored when you see people out there who got X amount of funding, or who got, that's not going in their pocket. That's actually taking a lot of money out of their pocket. So I would say, have belief in yourself, belief in the trenches with those who you chose to be around you, and then go get it, and make sure that you really want it, because as hard as you think the ride's going to be, it's going to be 10 times harder.
I got one final question for you. I don't know this answer. You're not one of my clients. I'd be proud of you if you were, with this level of growth. But do you have coaches, or do you have people that support you and challenge you to be the leader that you are today?
Great question. I do. I have an advisory board that I put together kind of for that reason. There are various folks who are entrepreneurs who have built companies, sold them, and a couple of them are C-level executives and billion-dollar companies. So I do have an advisory board that I kind of lean on for that sort of stuff, but who's been very helpful. But honestly, no, not really in kind of a more of a pure capacity in the way that you're saying. I think that myself and my co-founder Ranil, I think we just kind of leaned on each other, and use that as our way of kind of venting and trying to grow each other.
I appreciate you being here to share your journey. Appreciate your wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.
That wraps up another great episode here at Growth Think Tank. 800 episodes. Can you believe it? Hopefully you've been around for much of this journey. I have been here every step of it. I love to be able to come into your ears and create some new insight, new thinking that relates to you growing your business, being a better leader, creating the culture that you really want. Now, if you are getting everything you need from this podcast, great. I'd love to hear about it. Send me an email, go to social media, tell a friend. But if there's something missing and there's something you want to get more clarity on, then make sure you check out genehammett.com and schedule your call. I'd love to support you in your journey to being the most effective leader you can be. To be an extraordinary leader, that is what I do. This is who I am. I want to help you. Just go to genehammett.com and go to schedule your call, and it will help you become the leader that your team deserves. Now, when you continue to take in this content, make sure you are taking action. You're not just listening passively, but you are truly pushing forward. That's what I'm here to do. When you think about growth and you think about leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.